Well, it's a special pleasure to have you all this morning. The great advantage of the early service this morning is that you can get back to the rugby, isn't it? I think the early service could potentially be a bit more popular in the next few weeks. Some of us unfortunately don't have that choice. I wonder how many of our homes, of your homes, at some point over the years, had a growth chart on the walls. Whether it was a proper, really nice board one, or whether it was just those pencil lines, which had your name and the date of children or grandchildren, maybe you all those years ago. And you watched with excitement as you saw how much people had grown since you last marked on. Well, downstairs up at All Saints, they have in the youth room a different type of growth chart. I think they have actually marked people's physical heights. But when they set the youth room up, they also asked our young people to mark their spiritual heights. Asked them to mark actually where they were in their height with God, as it were. And I think the idea was, I don't know whether they've done this, but to go back every so often and keep marking on where they are and how they're growing so they can see how they're growing spiritually. So I love the idea. It's a great little one. And I want to ask a question to all of us today, really. It's just, what would our spiritual growth chart look like over the last few years if we've been doing one? How have we been doing? How have we been growing? And the great thing is, I want to say to you particularly as a congregation, is that the great thing about being a Christian is that actually you never stop growing. We're never there. There's that lovely verse in 2 Thessalonians 3:18, which talks about us being transformed into the likeness of Christ. We are constantly in the process of being transformed. Therefore, actually, whatever age we are, however long we've been a Christian, then actually we can still be people who grow. I suspect that actually if we did map out our spiritual growth chart, it wouldn't be a nice linear growth chart, would it? It would probably be, as I've got a slide for the next service, which actually draws a line which sort of goes something like this. Because actually the reality of it is that for most of us the Christian journey is full of ups and downs. There are times where actually we'll grow fast. There are times when we'll find ourselves stuck. And maybe even times when we find ourselves going backwards. And today isn't along with Peter here, about taking us all on a guilt trip at all, about how we are or aren't growing. But as Peter did here in his letter, I want him to encourage us, to spur us on again, to focus on those things which will help us keep going and help us keep growing more like Jesus. But how do we do that? How do we play our part in growing? Well, if someone's to grow up physically, then to be healthy and strong, then actually they need a good diet, don't they? I don't know whether you saw the news a couple of weeks ago, but there was a dreadful story of a child who had gone blind because they simply had a diet of chips and Pringles, I think it was. It was an awful story, but I have used that several times in the last few weeks with my son, and he's been reluctant to eat. But that just illustrates that if we're to keep going and keep growing spiritually, we need to be having the right sort of diet, don't we? And I want to just pick up on that in these words here. It's a short passage today. If you haven't got Bibles in front of you, do turn to it. There's only 3 verses that we're looking at today. 1 Peter 2, verses 1 to 3 on page 1218. Because I think what Paul says here is, I want to just illustrate and say, I think Paul's saying actually give up the bad diet and take up the good diet. So first of all, give up the bad diet. If we have a look in verses 1 and 2. Take a look, it's going to be verse 1. It says, therefore, and actually therefore, whenever there's a therefore, we need to ask what it's therefore. And actually that really refers back to chapter 1 verse 3, where he talks about actually because you have had a new birth in Jesus. You've been born again in Jesus. So really he's saying because you've been born again in Jesus, you've had that new birth in Jesus, rid yourselves of all malice and all deceit, hypocrisy, envy and slander of every kind. It's a strong command here, isn't it, Peter? Rid yourselves, get free from these things. From malice, that desire to hurt people with our words. Deceit, hypocrisy, pretending to be outwardly what we're not inwardly. Envy, that desire to have what others have, and perhaps a resemblance for those who have it when we don't. Slander, that desire to make false accusations or twist the truth, to damage people's reputations and perhaps make ourselves look better. And Peter said, get rid of all these things. Now that you're a new creation in Jesus, now that you've been born again into a new and living hope, this isn't who you are anymore. This isn't the way you behave as children of God, as believers in Christ. Instead, as we heard last week, you're people who are to love God and love others deeply and serve others, not have destructive feelings to others. So he's saying get rid of them, deal with them, because what happens is that they actually hinder your growth. You see, when our hearts are full of envy and malice and slander and all these things, then actually when they're turned towards these things, they're turned away from God and they stunt our growth. It's a bit like the thorns, I think, in the parable of the sower that we had read just now, in Matthew 13, where it talks about the worries of life, the deceitfulness of wealth choke the growing plants, making it unfruitful. Peter here hasn't given us an exhaustive list. These aren't the only things which choke our growth. Of course they're not. But I wonder what it is for us that chokes our growth, that actually stops us from growing, from making us fruitful. Maybe for us it's different. Maybe actually it's idols in our lives. Maybe actually it's materialism or money. Maybe it's our families or our work. Maybe it's that need to keep up with everybody else that actually chokes our focus on God, takes our focus off God, chokes our growth. Maybe it's addictions we have, or unforgiveness, or unhelpful relationships, or perhaps bitterness from the past. I wonder what it is in each of us which is stunting our growth at the moment, choking it. And how do we rid ourselves of these things? How do we deal with these things? Well, I want to just very briefly just suggest three things. I think firstly it starts by recognising these things in us. It's actually about admitting where we have hurtful feelings towards others. Perhaps recognising where we're being dishonest in our dealings. Perhaps recognising where we've made material things, or our work, or our families, our God, or even our rugby. It's about recognising things and admitting it to ourselves and then to God. And secondly, in prayer and confession, asking God to change our hearts. Actually bringing this stuff before God and saying, God, this is how I am. It's not how you've called me to be. Will you soften my heart? Will you change my heart? Will you transform my heart into a heart which desires you and the things of you, and change it into a heart of love, a heart that's aligned with your priorities? Recognising, coming to God in prayer and confession. And I think then actually us actively choosing to live these things out in the opposite spirit, maybe where we have finding that we're really finding someone really difficult, and if we're not careful, we're speaking badly of them behind their backs, actually, to say, I'm going to come in the opposite spirit. And I'm going to speak well of them to others. I'm going to speak well of them to their faces. I'm going to encourage them and bless them, where actually inside I'm feeling differently. Recognise, come in prayer and confession. Come that in the opposite spirit with God's help. What's stunting your growth today? What do you need to ask God to help you deal with, to help you change? To get rid of the bad And then Peter goes on in verses 2 and 3 to say, desperately desire the good diet. Peter says here to the believers, it says, like newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you've tasted that the Lord is good. I love that last phrase before we talk about the rest. That phrase, tasted that the Lord is good. It comes from Psalm 34, where it talks about taste and see that the Lord is good. And see, those who was writing to had all started in the faith. They had all, despite the tough times, tasted that the Lord was good. I wonder, what about you? Have you lately tasted that God is good? Have you lately seen God at work and known God's care and God's love for you? See, I wonder if there are some people here today who actually don't fully know God. Well, none of us fully know God, but actually still are quite far off knowing God for themselves. Maybe actually there's an invitation here from God for you today. If you're still trying to work out all this faith business, maybe God's saying today, come and taste and see that I'm good. It's a bit like when you're watching a table of people eating a really nice pudding, and you're sort of sitting there just watching. Have you ever been in a restaurant where you see the people at the table, it's always something really nice, and you think, I want a bit of that, and you can see that they're loving it. Well, I say you can do that, but it's only when you actually go and join them and stick your spoon in and actually taste it yourself that you really realise just what it's all about. And maybe God's saying to some today, stop standing far off, watching others taste me. But come and throw yourselves in and say yes to Jesus. I want to join in and be a follower and taste that the Lord's good. And Peter here goes on, he's saying actually to those new Christians that he's writing to, he's saying, that's just the start. You've tasted the Lord is good, but actually that's just the beginning. What you need to do now is this phrase, crave pure spiritual milk, so that you can grow up in your faith, in your salvation. Let's unpack that a little. What does it mean here by spiritual milk? Well, actually, without going into too technical stuff, the word used to describe this milk in the original language, the original Greek, is logikon, which actually shares a root with the word logos, which is that word translated as the word. So this phrase is sometimes translated as the pure milk of the word. And the word could be two things, I think. The word could be the word of God, Scripture itself. Actually, the message of the gospel, the Scripture itself, actually that's our word of God, isn't it? But also the word with a capital W, can mean Christ himself. You go back to John 1, it talks about the word, the logos, became flesh and dwelt among us. And so we're told to crave the word of God, Scripture. And we're told to crave the word of God, Scripture, because in the written word, we encounter the living word. We're not just there to fill our heads with knowledge, but we're to read Scripture and dwell in Scripture, so that actually in that we can encounter Christ. We can encounter the true and living God. And the more we do that, the more we'll be shaped and transformed by Him. And it doesn't just say, well, when you want to, just have a bit of the spiritual milk. It says crave. That word crave, it just gave me that idea of a screaming baby craving for its mother's milk. Well, when I was preaching All Saints last week, there was a screaming baby in the service. It didn't quite time it scream for this bit of the sermon, but it nearly did. And if you think about that screaming baby, just desperate for that milk which will strengthen its bones, that milk which will give it all that it needs for that little body to work and function, that it will give it immunity to diseases. But also what happens when a little baby is craving for milk and then it latches on to the bottle on its mother's breast. Well, actually just suddenly calms, doesn't it? It suddenly just finds that comfort and that peace. And I think that's what we're to be like a little baby, craving God's spiritual milk. And in the same way, God's words, encountering Jesus, the living word, will strengthen us. It'll give us what we need to grow strong, to support us through the trials and the tough times. God's word will protect us from the many diseases, spiritual diseases, if you like, which abound. God's word will help us resist temptation, will nourish us to grow. But more than that, I think also, God's word brings us comfort, doesn't it? And peace in those tough times. I've been speaking to a couple of people, several people this week, who are going through really tough times, and just reading scripture to them and encourage them to dwell in those comforting words, truths of God in scripture. You see, the danger is that if we don't crave the pure spiritual milk of the Word of God, if we don't develop regular habits of encountering Jesus through the Bible, through prayer, we'll be like some of that other seed in the parable of the sower. The seed that fell on the rocky ground, which initially sprouts well and begins to grow, but actually when the tough times come, when the drought comes, or the floods come, actually that little shoot will wilt or be washed away. And that's like us without deep rootedness in God's word, without developing those holy habits. When the challenges come, when the struggles in life, maybe even the persecution comes, we won't have the rootedness in scripture, the truth of the gospel, to feed us, comfort us, sustain us, and hold us firm. So to those facing persecution and great suffering in Peter's day, he is imploring them to crave that pure spiritual milk, to feed on the word of God, which will nourish and strengthen and sustain through those challenges. And may we too, this day, whatever we are going through, just hear those things for ourselves. What we've got asking us today to get rid of something that's hindering our growth. Is this passage here just encouraging us to again be people who take up our Bibles and to read them each day, to spend some time each day taking time out to pray, to encounter God there, to be meeting in life groups with others, to study and to learn and to spur each other on, to feed each other as we meet together. I want to encourage you today that maybe actually if you've been in a time, in a season where actually it's been hard to get into God's word, it's been hard to just find that space and other things are crowded in, then why don't we get into habits again? Those holy habits of reading scripture, those holy habits of taking time out to pray and to allow us to meet with God. And maybe actually if you hear that word and think, actually I don't crave the word of God, maybe I don't crave God, then actually maybe that's a really honest thing to say at the moment. And maybe actually your prayer is simply this, is God, help me to crave you. Help me to really desire you. Help me to really encounter you and desire that pure spiritual milk which will help me grow in you.